All right, welcome back to another Cinematic Wargamers, everyone. Instead of Adam today, he's busy doing something else, I guess. I don't know, some job thing, living life, whatever. Anyway, we replaced him with Austin this time from Death Ray Designs. Many of you are probably familiar with him. He used to be Brush for Hire, but he's now Death Ray Designs. Say hi, Austin.
Hello.
And then, of course, our illustrious Kris from Way of the Brush.
Illustrious, I like that.
Illustrious, that's right. I need more adjectives for my friends. So, well, I don't know, let's start in here. So, Austin, I know you're a big movie fan. Do you have some favorites you want to share, maybe?
Favorite movies? I don't know. I think some of my favorite movies may not honestly be the best movies. I think I've probably got two lists, but one of my favorites, probably Fifth Element. I really like that movie.
I know. I adore that movie.
It was the very first Blu-ray I ever bought. As soon as Blu-ray technology was affordable enough for me to get, that was the first one. I was like, I need to buy a Blu-ray with this, so I'm not just watching DVDs on my Blu-ray player. And so yeah, it was that one. I just wanted to see all of it in its brilliant, colorful beauty, and in high definition.
Yeah, no, I adore that movie. There's so many elements about the Fifth Element that I find amazing. Because I used to think Luc Besson was a really good filmmaker because of that movie.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really think that anymore. But that's still a really good movie.
Yeah, it's a really fun movie.
It's so good. It's one of those things where if you were to just read the script, you'd be like, this is terrible. Like, these lines are awful. What are you doing? Yeah. And it really is where you watch actors shine, because they made that movie, like, Mila Jovovich made up her own language, and they just had a great chemistry, and yeah, she would watch birds and in the wild and kind of like emulated, and then she just came up with the language of Lilu. So, fun fact, which is actually an excellent segue, since the topic of today for our movie chat is just really cool, awesome, iconic, favorite movies and costumes. Props and costumes in movies, and The Fifth Element is actually an awesome example, because you think of that movie and you're like, it's so colorful, it's orange hair, and there's like these bizarro jumpsuits.
The Monachuans.
Yes.
And lots of practical effects.
Yeah. The ZF-190 or whatever the heck it's called.
CF-190?
The giant gun thing?
The big giant multi-barrel.
Oh, that's right, the thing the arms dealer was trying to sell? Yes.
Yeah. I'd love to get my hands on one of those.
This is in real life. It's just how you solve traffic problems.
No, not for real. I mean, like the actual, like, you know, because people make them and sell them, right? And like, it's a prop you can get a hold of. And there are some, like, various versions of them. There's ones that are very screen accurate, and then there's ones, you know, they just did it in a press mold or whatever. But you know, yeah. So I'd love to get my hands on one, because it'd be fun just to have, you know, on the shelf, like, you know.
A gun collection.
Yeah, just a big made-up gun collection.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there's the Stones in Fifth Element. They're just all the crazy alien costumes. The opera singer and the, gosh, what was the name of the guys? The ones that created Lilu. And they were the ones that were traveling to the pyramids.
The supreme beings.
Monachuan.
Yeah. Manchuan?
Monachuan, yeah.
Gosh, I'll never remember that name.
Well, it's because I watched the movie a bazillion times.
The weird helmet thing that
Gary
Oldman would wear, yes.
The salad bowl, the clear salad bowl.
Yeah.
The two people who were incognito trying to be Corbin Dallas to get to the ticket, or to Paradise City or whatever, and like what they were wearing, like.
Yeah.
This is such an amazing movie. It's so iconic, fantastic sci-fi. Now, Austin, you actually have a lot of experience in making both costumes and props. Am I right?
I have a fair amount. I wouldn't say that I have as much as anyone actually working in the film industry, but I've got a fair amount.
That's cool. We'll latch on to that for the purpose of this conversation.
Okay.
Well, what are some of the favorite things that you've actually made, actually?
Probably one of the more complicated ones that I've done, and one that I really liked the way it turned out, was we made a Hawkeye quiver based on the quiver that he had in Avengers 2. And the most difficult part of it was that we were making it ahead of the movie release, so all we had to go on was set pictures and some behind-the-scenes pictures from what is it? Hot Toys. What's the name of the company that makes Hot Toys? Can't think of it right now. Anyway, the like high detail action figure. What was that, Chris?
NECA?
I don't think it's it. But anyway, the high end action figure series, Hot Toys. The people who make that, we got a hold of pictures of the miniature version of that ahead of the release, as well as the trailer and any other footage that was released. Just trying to work on it for someone who had commissioned that piece to be made for a costume they were doing, and that one really sort of pushed the limits of what we were comfortable doing. There's a lot of vacuum forming. It took us like 3 tries to figure out a good way to make the forms to vacuum form that, and it ended up being a weird hybrid layering thing that we did, and then we also had to sculpt all the different arrow tips and make molds and cast those, and we did some cold casting, which was an interesting process, and then we had to refletch all the arrows with screen accurate fletchings, and fortunately they didn't want a working version. That would have been
that would have been a little tougher.
But
well, you could probably put it as a shell over something, I would imagine, for a working version.
Well, there was a way that we could have done it. It just would have been a lot more complicated. Essentially what we would have done, instead of making static holders on the inside of the quiver to hold all these arrows, we would have cast probably some sort of really flexible urethane in a belt that had like little clips for them to clip into, and then ran stepper motors to actually pull the belt around a pulley system, and that probably would have worked. It would have taken a lot more engineering than we had time to do. So, but
what event was this for? What event?
For Dragon Con 2015. I think this was last year's Dragon Con.
Oh man.
It might have been the year before that. It might have been 14. Time eludes me these days.
Yeah, no, I feel you. Yeah. James, Dragon Con does look really awesome. I still have hopes of going this year, maybe, if I can hitchhike across the country.
It's a fantastic event. There's a lot of really talented costumers and prop makers there, and the environment is so great. There's lots and lots of people there wanting to and willing to talk to you as long as you'll listen about their process and all the materials they used. Everybody's just so excited to have made the things that they brought with them. So it's a really great place to learn. Not to mention you get a chance to rub elbows with not just people who make costumes and do high-end special effects makeup and make props for TV shows and movies, but sometimes you run into some pretty awesome actors and actresses there too. So it's a really great place.
No, it's huge.
Yeah.
Is
right?
the convention like
but it's thousands. What was that, Chris? I'm sorry.
All right, start over, Chris.
Is the convention strictly cosplay, or is it like? Is there other things? Is it like wargaming and you know what I mean? Or is it more like a Comic-Con?
It's not like Comic-Con. I've never been to a Comic-Con, but I always get the impression that Comic-Con is more exhibition-y, as in like there's lots of high-end vendors, and it's all about going to see to meet celebrities and things like that. Yeah. I feel like Dragon Con is more. I guess the best way to describe it is introspective. Like it's for the fans, by the fans, and everybody sort of comes together and just celebrates things. And yes, there are famous people there, and yes, there are very talented people who are notable creatives in the industry. But it's more for just having fun. Everybody gets together, and it's essentially a 4-day party in Atlanta, where everybody dresses up and does crazy stuff. But the theme of that convention is definitely anything TV, anything movies, anything geeky, nerdy, anything gaming, yeah, pop culture. There's a whole hall that is all board games, war games. You can anything that you do in your life that you might think I'm a blank nerd. TV, movies, gaming. There's something there for you.
Fair enough. Yeah, I guess it's almost like a pop culture convention then. Mm-hmm. And cosplay has gotten so big that it sort of takes front and center as just the most common thing you'll probably see there.
It's very true.
Although, man, I'd hate to be the one with like a really poorly assembled costume there, because it seems like it's very competitive almost.
You would not be alone. There's everything from you'll see people who work on TV shows and films coming in costumes. Occasionally you'll even see actors from films come in the costume that they were in the movie just to like hang out and schmooze with people. All the way down to people who make costumes out of cardboard boxes. I mean, it's the full gamut of talent and dedication. You've got people who this is all they ever do, and you have people who are just throwing together a costume to go have fun over a week.
Fair enough. Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about more movies. Like we kind of went over Fifth Element a little bit, but like, what are some? I guess to be iconic in a movie, it means that when you hear the movie name, you immediately think of like a major prop. I guess a really like ideal example would be for any of you guys who have seen that movie Crawl from a long time ago. Like hardly anybody has.
I love that movie.
Of course you do. And so what do you think of when you think of that movie, though?
The Glaive.
Exactly. That's like the only thing anybody remembers from that movie. I mean, I'm sure there's other parts. It's the only thing I remember from that movie.
The fire mares. I mean, the whole scene with the fire mares I liked. And the Slayers.
So those are like effects, though? Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but I mean, like like one of my favorite scenes in that movie is when the Slayers are coming out of the water and they're like walking along. They're walking with the old seer, and they're coming out of the water, and all the Slayers are shooting at them, and they're oh my god, and they're running around, and and I liked when the Slayers died. You hear that kind of sound as they died, and yeah, I can't do the sound because. Well, I sound like a freak, but...
That's really stopped you before, hasn't it?
Whoa! I can't do it.
But yeah,
that's
interesting.
That's one of my favorite movies when I was a young guy. And yeah, having seen it as an older, more mature person, I suppose, it was, not the greatest of movies. It's not the greatest of storylines. It's not... even very original, but you know what? It still holds that place of nostalgia that, you still love
nostalgia. It. Such a double-edged sword.
It is.
No.
Well, so I guess to hop back to kind of more modern times, semi-modern times, when you were talking about the Marvel Universe, of course we're referring back to comics from like the 70s and up, but the Iron Man suit is probably possibly one of the most iconic things in the Marvel Universe. I know all kinds of people who are trying to make that costume for themselves.
Yeah, it's probably among the costumes that I would consider to be of a certain difficulty level and above, is one of the most common ones that you'll see people try to do. It's a really, really hard costume to pull together. You either have complete mastery over the material you're working with. I've seen people make foam versions, like hand sculpt foam versions of it, and it looks immaculate. But I've seen lots of other people make it out of vacuum formed plastic, or they'll make fiberglass versions, or all kinds of other things. And you're going to spend a lot of money doing that, and a lot of time. It's a tough costume, but you're absolutely right. It's one of the most iconic costumes in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or Marvel in general, not even the Cinematic Universe.
When I think of Marvel and like the most cinematic, the most iconic poster boy of Marvel, I often think of Spider-Man. Spider-Man is very iconic.
That's
You know,
true.
that's true. With the Marvel Universe, you kind of forget because, I mean, except for the most recent movie, if you guys haven't seen that one, Civil War was really good. But you just think of the, like, Spider-Man movies, and they feel like rehashes. And to me, I've almost separated it from the comics, because I would read Spider-Man a little bit as a kid, and I followed Venom and Carnage, like, for a while with the whole, like, symbiote dramas. But, like, the movies were always just, like, this separate entity to me.
Well, that's partly because it's produced by Sony and not by Marvel itself. So, I mean, you had him completely segregated off for such a long time.
X-Men too.
Yeah.
X-Men, Marvel, and Avengers are all in the same universe, you know?
Yeah.
You mean, but we can't use the word mutant because politics.
Yeah.
Although Sony was nice enough to give visitation rights to Marvel for Spider-Man, which ended up being a really good idea. And I suspect whoever owns Fantastic Four will be doing the same because...
I believe that's Fox.
Is it Fox? That sounds right.
Fox
I can't remember.
The rights to Fantastic Four right now. Marvel pulled some I don't know, some weird stuff with them a while back. They were talking about completely canceling all of the Fantastic. Wait, were we talking about Fantastic Four? Is that what we were saying before? I was having a conversation completely different from you guys in my head.
We were talking about Fantastic Four being possibly put in the hands of Marvel to make another, like, a good movie.
Right. Well, Marvel had. I don't know whether they actually went through with it or not. I wasn't paying close enough attention. I'm just not a big Fantastic Four fan. They were talking about canceling all of the Fantastic Four comic books for a while in hopes that would sort of poison the well and get people to not be interested in Fantastic Four anymore, so that Fox would say, yeah, we don't want to make these movies anymore because it's not valuable enough. And
so
then
much history there.
Yeah.
I felt that way about the Crow series. I actually wondered if, like, me and my friends could possibly gather enough money to buy the rights to the Crow, because I really want to see a good movie from that again. I really love that movie, like the first one.
Right.
The Crow is kind of iconic. It's super 90s goth, like heavy metal, 9 Inch Nails, like the 90s.
I never read the comics, but, like, isn't the story pretty much the same? I mean, he's wronged, he comes back, he gets vengeance, he goes back.
He's kind of a folklore. Like, the Crow is something that, you know, happens to a person more than he's the only one that exists, I think. So. Yeah.
He's a vengeful revenant that comes back from the grave to seek vengeance on the people that killed him or wronged him. Or
exactly. Kind of like Leonardo DiCaprio, except in gothic clothing. What was it? Okay, so yes, Iron Man. How would you make an Iron Man costume though? Like, I mean, if you're making with foam, hats off to you. That's really impressive. It just I guess you'd make it out of a lot of the same materials, most commonly the way people do, like Boba Fett or Stormtrooper costumes, which are all vacuum formed, aren't they?
That's true. Yeah, I mean, vacuum forming is probably one of the most economically efficient ways to do it. I've seen people. I say people. I've seen one person fully 3D print an Iron Man suit, and I'm sure that was a nightmare.
Oh my goodness, that must have cost so much money. 3D printing is so cost prohibitive.
Well, it is if you outsource it. If you have your own 3D printer and you're just running it for a month straight, you might get through, you know, a costume. You have to part it out and glue everything back together, but that's going to be a nightmare. Just getting everything to fit back together. So.
You have to really love Iron Man.
Yeah.
And the other hard part is fitting
the way to go with that. There are certain parts that I would see how you could do foam versions of. When it comes down to foam, a lot of times it ends up being a durability issue. Like I made my Winter Guard armor out of foam several years ago, and it was essentially just like a big chest piece, and it had straps that went over it. But even, you know, after probably less than 20 hours of wear, it you could already see it starting to stress. And part of that was because it was an early costume for me, and I didn't take very good care of it and didn't seal things properly. But foam's hard to work with. You put paint on top of foam, you bend it, it cracks, and it happens.
Hot. It melts. It's hot.
Yeah, that's
it creases. It's hot.
Yeah.
Now, Austin, have you ever been tempted to make a Space Marine suit?
I've had many people ask me why I haven't made one yet, and for the most part, it's been a space issue. Like, I don't have the room to make a giant suit of Space Marine armor. I've just gotten into a nice big new warehouse space, so I don't know, maybe that's in the future.
Maybe now. Just carve out that corner.
Yeah.
So you'd have to be on stilts for it, though, right? Space Marines are like 8-9 feet tall. And...
Yeah, you only need another foot. I mean, Austin's what, 6 foot? I mean, you only need a foot.
Yeah, you can either build, you can just build sort of platform boots. That's what I've seen. Yeah, that's usually the most common way of doing it. I'm trying to think of the guy's name who made the suit that I'm thinking of, but it was pretty amazing. I want to say it was someplace Scandinavian.
Yeah.
And was it Blood Angels or it was a red suit of armor though.
Yeah, Blood Angel, Pernod or something like that. I think his name is.
That sounds right.
He's got a wonderful xenomorph costume as well.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'll have to check it out.
He's a tall, skinny dude, right? So
he
fits the shape, and his xenomorph costume is like, it's spot on.
Yeah. That's a tough one to do too. I mean, if you want to talk about iconic costumes, that is a particularly fantastic example of practical effects makeup that is just horrifying.
Yeah, even watch the test footage of when they were testing it back in '77. That's scary as hell. You're watching it, and it's just a guy wearing just the hood, like a foam hat, and he's moving, and he's all like.
Yeah, like I've seen that video, and the movement in it is so bizarre. Like, you get the sense that you're watching the video from The Ring or something. You're like, oh, what am I watching?
That's an iconic prop. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, Alien. That's probably number one, I think, most iconic costume, alien villain, I think.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure many beds have been wetted because of it.
H.R. Geiger, he's always done really great work, but he knocked it out of the park on the visual design for Alien and Predator. Yeah. I mean, Predator is the same universe, and he also did a lot of the environmental design and the costume or effects makeup design for it.
Yeah. Predator.
That man is a Freudian nightmare, though.
Well, I mean, the whole Alien series is allegory for that stuff. Yeah. So I mean.
No, but Miranda, you got to check out his sketchbook.
Oh no! I grew up. My older brother, loved H.R. Geiger. We had the calendar every year. He has like Biohazard in the shape, like all inspired by H.R. Geiger, like tattoo on him. Like I grew up with aliens and H.R. Geiger artwork all over my house.
But there's a classic Giger sketch of Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Oh no! I'm sure it's just horrifying.
Yeah, it's.
Did he also do like Christopher Robin in the forest with Winnie the Pooh and them? Because
I think so, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah, he's twisted, dude. He's.
Well, you can kind of see what you want in a lot of things, though. Speaking of aliens, though, the power loader is kind of an amazing prop as well, like costume, I guess.
I don't know if I've ever seen anybody do that as a practical cosplay thing. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah,
I'm sure they've done like miniaturized versions, but you would Power Loader and Space Marine. I mean, they kind of like hang out together.
Like the Terminator armor.
Yeah.
It was just gigantic. Just your head sticking out.
Yep.
Might as well wear a Volkswagen or something.
Nice. No, I love the Power Loader. That one, like, I don't know. I always liked in video games playing like the big beefy dudes that run around fighting, because like I've got little noodling arms, and so I always like to imagine like fighting all like hardcore, and so the power loader sort of is like an extension of that fantasy to me.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I can do anything.
I'm invincible.
Except for the crazy alien that you're still pretty vulnerable in a power loader, let's be honest.
Yeah.
But
There's no real armor there.
But ceramide armor, what would you think would be the best material to make? I mean, I guess we were kind of talking about the Space Marines, but you know, for those of you who want to wear like girl ceramide armor, me, what is? I'm thinking vacuum forming, but I know people have done it with like EVA foam and stuff to make like Sister of Battle costumes.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I'm sorry. Are we talking about Space Marine, or are we talking about?
No, we're talking about Sisters of Battle.
Oh, Sisters of Battle.
But you could have a a female Space Marine. It's if you can have female formed stormtroopers and female Boba Fett's and
I don't care. I don't care. Sisters of Battle look awesome. I don't want to dress as one of those. So how would I make that?
That's fine.
I'd probably do a mix of vacuum formed plastic and EVA foam. For a lot of the parts that are going to need to flex a little bit, obviously EVA foam is going to be a lot more comfortable. Stuff that needs thickness to it, so if you're looking at like the big pauldrons that have, you know, probably they need to be at least like a ½ inch thick, EVA foam is going to be the way to go for those. And you know, the easier way probably to do the rest of the armor might actually be a material called Worbla.
Yes, I follow Kris Cosplay and her Worbla. It's so cute. Yes, I am familiar with it. Seems kind of a difficult material to work with, but I haven't messed with it at all. But it is EVA foam, right? It's just really thin.
Worbla? No. Worbla is a thermoplastic.
Oh, that's right.
And it's for those in the audience who have no idea what I'm talking about, it's essentially a sheet of plastic that's probably a 1/16 of an inch thick. It has a heat-activated adhesive on one side and a light texture on the top. That texture can be covered over by layering on PVA or whatever kind of filler material you want to put on top of it. But it's really easy to cut with scissors or a knife or even a laser cutter, and you can pattern out pieces, and then with just a heat gun you can heat it up and either mold it by hand or put it on top of forms, and because it's got a heat-activated adhesive on the back, layering it up to make really detailed pieces is relatively easy. You can use sculpting tools to burnish in all kinds of patterns and things. So making that kind of armor might be easier done with Worbla if you just want to make one and you don't want to buy, find, fabricate a vacuum former. Totally the easier way to go.
Fair enough. Yes.
From what I've seen, the Worbla, I mean, like it's like basically like warming up paper mache. But you can reuse this stuff as well after it's been taken to form. I'm pretty sure you can sand it and stuff like that and drill into it and everything. But one thing I like, at least up here, I was looking at prices for it, and it's expensive.
It is. It is.
It's quite a bit for one sheet, and I was like, holy moly.
Well, but those sheets are really large. I mean, if you're looking at like the jumbo-sized sheets, I'm gonna. While we're talking about it, I'll actually.
It was like a 24 by 48, and I think it was like $60-some, I think.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
That sounds, that totally sounds right.
Whereas EVA foam, I mean, you can pick that up for, the same size for about $10.
Sure. It's just a matter of ease of forming. You're going to spend a lot of time shaping EVA. Now, you can cut and wedge dart. That's the word I'm looking for. You can dart. EVA. So you cut a little like triangular piece out of it, and then you stick the pieces back together, and you create a conical
curvature,
or whatever shape by doing it that way. Think of it like paper craft. if you ever made a papercraft kit and you've had to cut the shape out and then you're able to sort of bend the paper back together to make a dome shape or whatever, that's how that works. And in fact, before the show, we were talking about Bill Duran over at Punish Props. He has a fantastic book on fabricating with foam, and I think it's like $5 on his site.
Oh, nice. No, Bill Duran's really, really good. If you guys haven't followed him, he's made all kinds of gaming props. So.
Yeah, he's done a lot of cool stuff for video game companies and other cosplayers and just general commission stuff. But he's super, super talented, and he's done some really fantastic work.
As a bit of a random interjection, which I apologize, Adam messaged me. He's live at ACD Games Day, so I was going to let him in for like 2 seconds to give a random update from there, which sounds kind of fun, so it'll be a little off topic, but whenever he gets in. But, yes, what other props and costumes have we got? The armor stuff is always what always seems so tricky, but in the last 10 years or so, it seems like it's become incredibly attainable with vacuum forming in your home. I mean, I've done it here. Makes your whole kitchen stink, but whatever. Foam, like that, what you can do with foam, what you can do with 3D printing. Used to be like Sculpey and wire hangers and cloth. Yeah. You have to be a good seamstress.
Yeah.
You know.
Paper mache and...
Yeah, it seems that we're at a sort of strange costuming renaissance right now where people have found and attained easier ways to produce much nicer looking costuming elements. It's not insanely expensive, and it doesn't take essentially years of experience to be able to put one of these things together. Now, the more experience you have and the better your materials are, the better your stuff's going to look most of the time. But
well, and like the cosplay community, as it were, I mean, they are all very freely giving of tips and advice and help, so it's a lot easier. Like, just the resources you have are a lot better.
Yeah, and if you're looking for information on doing any of this, and specifically making replica props, the replica prop forms are amazing resources for finding techniques and materials to produce certain effects, and even resource photos for making something. So, like, if you wanted to make an iconic prop like the Maltese Falcon or Luke Skywalker's lightsaber, they've got all kinds of great information.
That's super iconic. Adam, how you doing, man? Sounds noisy over there.
Yeah, it's not too bad. I'm here at ACD Games Day in Madison, Wisconsin. It's ACD is one of the big distributors that basically sells the games to your local game store, and they put on this big kind of an event. And so we just got done with dinner, and we've had some cocktails, and we're about pretty soon. These doors behind me, which you can't, where's my hand? There it is. These doors behind me are going to open, and they're going to be running demos. There's a ton of manufacturers here, and they're going to be running demos of all kinds of different games. So we're going to be going in there and learning about all kinds of new games and things like that, and playing a bunch of stuff, which will be really sort of fun. And then you can win prizes and things like that. So yeah, it's kind of an interesting event that happens that I've been going the last 4 or 5 years, and just sadly it happened to happen on Thursday night, so I wasn't able to make the standard call.
I already badmouthed you at the beginning of the show. It's fine.
That's fine. I'll watch the replay later on and then see how that worked out. But I just noticed the time after we got done with our stuff, and I thought I would kind of pop in and say hi to Kris and Austin as well.
Yay!
Hey.
So that's kind of fun.
That lounge looks like the Jetsons.
It's called the Monona Terrace, and it was partially designed by Frank Lloyd Wright, as a matter of fact. I was reading stuff on the around the walls earlier. They've got a whole bunch of, like, there's a mini little Frank Lloyd Wright museum downstairs. So yeah, it is very Jetsonsy up here, actually. It's kind of interesting. So anyway, I just wanted to pop in and say hi and see how everybody was doing, and I'll be back next month if you'll have me and everything. And
of course.
it's just interesting that I can do this on my phone while I'm here at the thing, and it's amazing to live in the future, isn't it? It's like the Jetsons right here. It's living in the future.
Exactly.
All right, I'm going to try to figure out how to disconnect this now, and I'll let you guys get back to it, and I'll see you guys later.
See you later,
Good seeing you, Adam. Thanks for popping in.
I don't know how to make it stop.
Gene,
now for the remaining half hour of the show, Adam learns how to use his phone. That's more than I can do. I'm sure I have lots of features on my phone. I'm kind of like deliberately stupid about it though, because I'm like, I don't really want to mess with it. I'm always worried that I'm accidentally gonna like, I don't know, publicize something or be live, and I don't know, people are seeing me snoring or scratching myself or something awful.
On the inside of your pocket.
Yeah, so I don't think I could live with myself that. So, plus I also grew up in the household of like the government's watching you, and so like maybe there's just this little part of me that's always like, my phone's a spy. I'll just leave it over there. But I like hardly. Yeah.
I don't trust you, technology.
Do you wear a foil hat?
Sometimes, you know, it's the noise can give you a headache after a while, but you know, it does help prevent the solar rays from actually like getting you. It's really important.
Gamma rays?
Well, you know, solar flares happen all the time, and pretty soon they're going to knock out the world's power, and we're all going to be living on coconuts and each other.
Yes. We can't possibly build crops with no power.
Well, that's true. I mean, everybody be back to just, the things we did the last 100 years, right? Sewing and cooking our own food, farming. I guess that would actually be kind of good.
Yes.
Anywho.
Wait, what were we talking about?
I don't know. We're talking about something to do with movies. I love costumes, though. What are some of my other favorite costumes? It's not, okay, so it's more of a prop, but it's also a character. You guys remember Little Shop of Horrors?
Yeah, of course.
So, Audrey, too.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Oh, I saw that movie again for the first time, I saw it again for the first time. Wow, I saw it again recently, and it caught me off guard. I was watching it, and I couldn't help but think the practical effects for the plant are so good that I was like, wait, did they have CG? No, that's a puppet.
Yeah, it's Jim Henson.
It's all animatronics.
Yeah. Which is amazing for the budget on it, because you think of like The Thing, practical effects holds up. Honestly, I think Ghostbusters holds up really well. Crap, there's another movie I was just thinking of that was like super. Oh, The Dark Crystal.
Absolutely.
That movie's amazing. It totally holds up. Like you totally feel for these characters, and it makes me cry, and then I have to feel stuff in my cold heart. I only watch it occasionally. But.
Speaking of Ghostbusters. I hate to be the one to bring it up, but man, that remake has been just embroiled in so much controversy. Like, it's been ceaseless.
Sony needs to hide from the fact that they made a bad movie potentially. So Sony do what Sony do,
it's one of those ones that just I mean, like it didn't need to be done.
No.
But it could have been done. There's actually really awesome fan films of Ghostbusters, because you take the idea that they made a franchise, right, and you're out in Kansas hunting ghosts. Like, you could do a lot with that story.
Yeah, you could.
They just chose not to.
But I think what would have been a much more interesting... Go ahead, Chris.
It's just, unfortunately, that they're rehashing the same idea.
Yeah.
It would be far more interesting if these characters were a franchise, that they're the granddaughters of these guys, or something along those lines, right? But
I was just gonna say, I think that I mean, this is an idea that is not my original idea. It's been floated for some time during discussions of this movie, but I think that a much more interesting take on the story would have been that if this was the new generation, and you had at least the ones that were still alive, the same actors come back and say, we're passing the torch. We're getting too old to do this. We need somebody to take over from us. And they said, here, we're gonna train you up the best we can, and you take it from here. But to what seems like a beat for beat remake didn't need to happen.
No.
Especially with not as good special effects. They look like Scooby-Doo the movie special effects.
Yeah. Yeah. Slimer looks like Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
Special effects.
Well, you know, it's when special effects go too far. We've sort of hit that that point in movies where you really expect CGI everywhere, and it's like so in your face that you are desensitized to it.
Sure.
Well, they feel very Disney.
Yeah, it does make it cartoonish. I agree.
Because in the original, like the one that scared the hell out of me was the cab driver. When the guy jumps into the cab and he's just all this desiccated face and he's, take me to the 7th and 4th. And it's,
oh, you're so cute. You know what scared me? Ernest Scared Stupid with the that movie terrified me as a kid.
Oh, I watched that movie way too many times as a kid.
Yeah.
All right. I always thought that the milk gag was hilarious. The rare Himalayan miak, some sort of like weird jam when he couldn't for the life of him guess the 4th letter, made the word milk instead of miak.
I barely remember that movie. I just remember being scared of it.
Way too vividly.
I should watch it again. I need to watch all my the movies that terrified me in childhood. I used to be completely terrified of Christopher Walken, nightmares about him, because I saw him in this movie Communion. I was terrified of aliens. I live in New Mexico. There's already people who talk about aliens in Roswell and big eyes, and they're gonna abduct you, and you're paralyzed when you sleep. And I would wake up as a kid and couldn't you know, where you wake up and you're still paralyzed from sleep paralysis. I just had horrible nightmares, so I was terrified of aliens and subsequently terrified of Christopher Walken.
Oh, man.
So I've been meaning to rewatch that movie, but I don't know that I'd go to bed right away afterward.
Kris, do you have a childhood terrifying movie, something you probably shouldn't have watched as a kid?
Oh, man, there's lots.
What's the most notable?
Stuff we shouldn't have watched as kids.
Here's one. It's one of my earliest ones that it just scared the bejeebus out of me, and that was Cat People.
Cat People.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've ever heard of that.
No? Oh,
no.
Do a search on it.
Okay.
It's the one where David Bowie's song, Putting Out Fire.
Yeah.
Okay.
That song was written for that movie, Cat People, and I remember seeing the movie. And basically, it's about these people who turn into freaking cats. It's kind of like werewolves, but not. They turn into big cats. And
okay.
I was very young when it came out, and yeah, it scared the ever-loving crap out of me when I was a kid, and I had to leave the theater and everything like that.
Oh.
And yeah.
Oh wow, you had to leave the theater? Oh.
Yeah. Well, heck, I mean, because I saw Empire Strikes Back in the theater when it first came out, and the scene where Princess Leia is sitting in the Millennium Falcon, and the little things are flying by when they're inside the asteroid, and then it latches onto the glass of the thing, that scared the crap out of me the first time I saw that.
Oh.
Fair enough. That's
probably one of the most, doesn't make sense to have scared me as much as it did films as a kid. And I know that he's supposed to be the master of suspense, but Birds. Birds scared the crap out of me.
Yeah.
Birds is a really uneasy movie.
Yeah,
it's really well done.
It wasn't even like oh no, I need to run and hide during this movie, or I can't look at the screen. It was just it haunted me for forever. I'm just like, I feel uneasy around birds. I don't want to be near them. I don't like them. I don't like the way they look at me with their beady little eyes.
Well, not like birds in general. They have no control of their bowels. Disgusting creatures.
It was also sort of the 1-2 punch of, I think I either saw the movie and then had the misfortune of getting too close to a nest and a bird dive bombing my head, or it was the other way around. I was either attacked by a bird, then saw the movie, or saw the movie, then attacked by a bird, and was just like, nope, don't like birds now. Officially don't like birds. I've gotten over it since.
Fair
I'm
enough.
fine with birds now. We're pals now, but yeah.
So, has anybody ever commissioned you to make a lightsaber?
Lightsaber. I Not a commission.
It's got to be one of the most. No.
Sure.
Okay. But you made one?
I made one for me a long time ago, and it was like a weird steampunk lightsaber. And then I also started working on one with a friend of mine who comes with to Dragon Con, but he never really quite followed through. I will say that with the companies, with the existence of companies like I think it's Saber Forge.
Yeah.
A lot of people have stopped really making their own and have started buying them because they're so affordable now to buy a lightsaber prop because they've sort of mass-produced them. Now, if you want something screen accurate, obviously you're going to need to do that. But if you're just going to be some random Jedi person, you know, one of their lightsabers will do just fine.
Well, like the dueling ones I've seen, they're like $1,000.
You can get them for much less than that. There are ones that they have that I think the $1,000 ones are the ones with like the really crazy soundboards and all the really crazy light animation effects. But
if I'm getting a lightsaber, I'm getting it, and I want to hit people and it make all the sounds.
That's the only reason to get one.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
It's only worth having a lightsaber if it works properly.
Yeah. Well,
So I'll trim all of the hedges. Oh, I won't.
No, I'll never.
I'd have to share. Wow.
It would be cool to make
this
them the way they originally made them, though.
Which was out of junk, right? It's just
it's like Luke Skywalker's lightsaber. It's a camera flash from like the 30s and 40s. It's the handle to a camera flash. You know the old flash bulbs.
Mm-hmm.
It's that handle, and and it's like almost no work on it almost.
Yeah.
You know, you just get that handle and you just add the little doodads and.
I saw a breakdown once upon a time of where all the parts from that lightsaber came from, and it was essentially just like somebody grabbed a tray of random parts from a machine shop and glued them to the outside of that handle. And that was pretty much it.
Oh, wow. I mean, that's the magic of movies. It just has to look good on screen. It doesn't have to do anything else. Unless you're Peter Jackson and you have to make everything very accurate and with really high-end quality stuff. You ever watch the making of on all of those movies? You're like, wow,
not all of them.
There's just money everywhere. Very interesting. But I'm definitely more from the Sam Raimi school interest of like, that's good enough. Oh, there's an iconic one, the Necronomicon.
Yeah.
Ex Mortis or whatever. You guys seen the new show, the one on Stars?
I haven't. How
is
is
amazing.
it? Yeah?
It's very Evil Dead. Ash comes at it like he's full Ash, and it's amazing. Like his co-stars are kind of like, I don't know how he's gonna play with the team, but no, it's great. And it's so like irreverent and bloody and violent for no reason and commented on. It's just amazing. I love that. I love that TV show.
Everything that I've ever seen or heard about Bruce Campbell has been awesome. I mean, he seems like a genuinely amazing guy, and he's really talented.
He's genuinely, I don't know that he ever breaks character. Like, he seems like he's always kind of the same. I met him, like, a long time ago when we had a store here at Page One, and he was signing his book, If Chins Could Kill. And so, like, me and my family waited for, like, 8 hours or whatever to get our book signed, in which case, like, we're, like, reading halfway through the book. But, yeah, you know, it's cool. He seems like a good guy. I think he understands, like, that he's got it kind of good.
Yeah. Yeah,
That's my take from it. I don't know. Maybe he's a jerk.
Most of I haven't actually met the man, but you know, all the interviews I've seen him do seem very candid. He seems like a pretty genuine sort of guy, and I don't know if it's necessarily that. I guess he never breaks character, but he is always playing himself essentially in every role. He's him. Like Jack Nicholson does the same thing. Yeah, no, you're bringing that like not smarmy, but snarky attitude. There you go.
Like Even in his indie films and stuff. Oh, and I've seen some bad movies that he's into, like Alien Apocalypse. You're like, okay, I'm a fan of you, Bruce. So quick quiz for the both of you guys. Just gonna randomly throw out some movie titles. See what kind of props or what you think of when you think of that movie that come to mind, because I think it's a good way to know whether or not something's actually iconic. For example, The Matrix.
I think Matrix. The first thing I think of is the pills.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's absolutely, like, red pill, blue pill is very, I don't know, I mean, it's obviously iconic, but it's very parabolic, I guess.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
it applies to so many things in life.
Yeah, it's because everybody's left with those two choices, right? So everybody.
Say if we're talking props, some of the other iconic pieces from that, I would say Morpheus's glasses, the nose pinch glasses for sure. That's got a very Matrix feel to it.
Neo's jacket.
Yeah. I think it's we're getting into costuming now, but yeah.
It's true. Yeah.
Yeah. The jacket.
Maybe the spoon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about Back to the Future?
Oh, the hoverboard.
Yes. Have you ever made a hoverboard?
No. No, I haven't.
You suck at this, Austin.
I know. I'm supposed to have made all of these iconic props now.
Obviously. Didn't you get the memo like 5 minutes before the show started? Did you know Lexus actually successfully made a hoverboard? And it is so expensive to run because it runs off like nitrogen or liquid nitrogen, I want to say. It creates this crazy magnetic thing. They have to run it through a superconductor, so they have to freeze
it's probably super cool. That's probably what it is.
Yeah. They actually made it for like a Lexus commercial or something. But that actually exists and it's real, but it's so cost prohibitive to make a hoverboard that you're just really not going to see them for now. Yeah. For now. Until we just until we figure out magnetism a little better and then start breaking gravity, then it's on.
It's when we stop living within linear space and realize space has much more of a deeper curve that you realize that gravity can be bent, and then that's when it happens.
Well, I feel like
gravity can be bent
already. It's just you need a more massive thing to bend it.
Yeah.
What comes to mind when you think of Star Trek?
Phasers, communicators,
tricorders,
modern day smartphones.
Tricorders, yeah.
Yeah.
No.
I still would like to get a tricorder, like the next generation, not the original ones, because the original ones look like a little like a little battery pack, you know. It's like Mr. Spock's looking into his purse. You know, whereas the new ones, he's got the flip open and he pulls the little thingy out and he's like scanning and
Yeah. Star Trek is one of those TV shows or series I've appreciated as I've gotten older. So I didn't realize how intellectual it was.
The original series? Oh yeah, the original series is great. I mean, it's Aesop's fable.
Well, it's just not something I appreciated as like a kid. You're just like, oh, action! I want to see things killing each other or whatever. And then you grow up, like as you get older, Star Trek, you're like, oh wow, these are like real issues they're talking about, and like that's handled so calmly. And
that's what all good sci-fi will do, is talk about the issues of the day and draw.
Well, that's what all good stories will do.
Right. Sure. But some stories...
I'm going to outbroad you there, Kris.
Yeah, outbroad?
Outbroad you. Broad statements. I'm really good with words, obviously. This is why I don't do live shows. Anyway. Star Trek is really cool. I need to then get back to my next generation watching. Like, I saw it as a kid, and I grew up actually with Voyager, would be what I was playing when I grew up, and I absolutely loved the Doctor and Seven of Nine. They were both my heroes. But
yeah,
the guy who plays the Doctor was in Evil Dead. He was the lady in the basement, I think. No, what am I saying? That's from Neverending Story. He was the hag.
I was gonna say Voyager. The Doctor is a man, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally is. Yeah, him and Seven of Nine got along really well. It was awesome.
Yeah.
Next Generation is one of the best ones. Than the original series. The original series is great. And if you can watch, if the old special effects really kind of like if special effects kind of can pull you out of a moment, they've been remastering the show, or they've already done remastering the show, and they actually updated the effects and the scenes with the ship and things like that, and so it actually feels more contemporary than anything. But yeah, the original series, I mean, you get no deeper storylines, and Next Generation when it first started out was sort of like that. But then once Roddenberry passed away, it started to diverge, and then of course Deep Space Nine was out near the end, and that started to get really dark. And Deep Space Nine is actually one of the better ones as well because it deals heavily with war and its place within our society.
Yeah, it's also one of the only ones that had a hard serial. Episode, instead of being episodic where it sort of resets at the end of every episode, it's one of the only, I guess, full-fledged series that
they were consecutive.
Yeah.
What happened in one episode carried over into the next, and
exactly.
Yeah.
Which is definitely not what happened in Next Generation at all.
Yeah. But
are they doing a new one yet? I mean, I figured it's about time for another Star Trek.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I know.
CBS has put out a teaser for it.
But... Excellent.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be curious to see what they do.
Well, the thing is,
another one.
The way the logo looks, it looks like it's set in Captain Kirk time.
We lost Austin. He died off the internet. I blame you, Kris. Obviously.
Obviously. I've been outbroughted again. No, but for anybody like Star Trek is really where I mean people go on about Star Wars, but I mean Star Trek has a much deeper story, whereas Star Wars is much deeper characters, I think. Not deeper, but more likable.
Well, I mean, you stick with those characters a long time. Like, well, no, you do in Star Trek. I mean, they're just different and popular. Contrary to popular belief, you can like both. So.
Yeah, I do. I'm happily a Star Wars and Star Trek nerd. I would happily have my Batleth and my Han Solo pistol next to each other. I mean,
they can share the same wall. Like,
yeah, they can share.
They have these little lines between them.
No.
Awesome.
Same like.
I don't collect nearly enough props. So my
no, I don't either.
Too bare.
Yeah. Did Austin just like explode or like?
No, he just. Yeah, I don't know. I think we should probably kind of wind it down anyway. Coming up on the hour mark, and I'm actually trying to like stay on schedule now. We'll see how that works. I don't know. Hey, there he is. Maybe that's part of him. I don't know. I was also going to point out before we left that I thought there were actually some kind of awesome props in Monty Python and the Holy Grail, like the coconut hooves. Like,
yeah, that's the first thing I think of.
Those are just really. Yeah, right. Like
it's not a film that I would think of when I'm thinking of stuff with particularly memorable props, but they are actually.
Yeah. The Black Knight.
No, even the goofy ones. A Christmas Story. What do you think of when you think of A Christmas Story?
The what story?
You think of A Christmas Story?
The Red Ryder BB gun for sure.
The Red Ryder BB gun definitely,
and the lamp.
Bunny suit.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, those are just iconic things.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the bunny suit. That's true. It's true.
Yeah.
So
I guess the slide.
And then of course like super quotable. Hi, Liam and Russ. I'm sorry, just joining the chat now. I think we're winding down. Sorry. We were mentioning Ghostbusters earlier. I don't think I mentioned that both the proton pack and the
Sure.
The Trapper for the Ghosts is also highly iconic and harder than it looked to copy and make. So anyway, on that note, I want to thank everybody for joining us. And actually, if people are interested in following the costume work now you don't directly work with Contagious Costuming, but they are a group of people that you kind of help with, right?
Sure. Yeah, I don't know. They
Explained it to me.
They whenever they have commissions that they want my help on, I help with those things. But ostensibly, they're Contagious Costuming commissions, and I'm just the hired help.
Well, he sells himself short. But yeah, Contagious Costuming is a pretty cool Facebook site. Is it all just on Facebook, or is it elsewhere? Do they have
also
YouTube?
have a website. The website address is isitcontagious.com.
I wonder how many accidental hits they get.
I don't know. That web address
what are you looking for when you're
theirs for forever. It's been used for a bunch of other stuff before costuming, but that's
fair enough.
That's what it is now.
I might have searched that
but
site.
yeah, Indeed. No, there's a lot of really cool costumes there. If you follow Cosplay, which I keep getting more and more interested in because it looks super fun. But yeah, and Lehman, the next time we're going to be on will be next month. So I don't know exactly the day, but approximately, let's say like the 23rd-ish of June, maybe.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Austin, really, I appreciate you coming on and talking about your experience and what you've worked with and how you work with stuff and your favorite movies and the things that scare you. It's all very fun.
Thank you for having me.
Have you? Okay,
yeah,
wait. One final thing for Austin. Have you ever done any costumes out of your MDF stuff?
I've done props, absolutely, and we've done a whole bunch of swords and weapons and things that we've just coated with epoxy afterwards to harden them up. But yeah, as a base, it's great for doing accents or thin parts for costuming, as long as you seal them and harden them up, because MDF's terrible with water. So you want to seal it.
Turns out.
Would you be so bold as to make a Space Marine suit out of MDF?
I don't think I would. I think it would be awful and very heavy.
Well, make it like steampunkish. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, it would be like playing a video game with low polygon count. All flat, everything.
Yeah. And it'd be
like if Minecraft made a Space Marine, that'd be fantastic.
That'd be heavy.
Marines.
That sounds really heavy. I don't think I could do that. All right. Well, on that note, thank you everybody for joining in. We'll see you next month, hopefully, and we'll figure out something else to talk about with movies. If you have suggestions, feel free to throw them in there. I just kind of make it up as I go along because I want to hang out with you guys. So anyway, talk to you guys later. We'll see you next month.